Ah, yes. The first time we decided to get together, you've heard about our first summit. We talk about it fondly. We were, I've talked, we talked about we were building up these conversations. They went from LinkedIn over to Facebook. We were starting to have a lot of great dialogue. And some of those that were part of the original um, restorers and others like myself that were kind of coaches or consultants, or some of them were. Sean Michael Lewis was a marketing guy, and Kevin Dooley was part of the early stages. And Kevin obviously has a restoration company, but he also has a great mind around where things are going and futurism. And we were having such good conversations that none of us had ever had. And we said, man, we need to get together in one place and have a convention. And that was the first word that came about. And I hate conventions. I said, no, there's already the experience in the RA. Let's don't recreate this. But these conversations aren't happening anywhere. So let's just have that. Let's have a gathering. It was going to be smallish. I mean, hell, at that point, we didn't have 150 members of this movement. It was still 2.0. And Andy said, let's have a summit. I'm like, great. Where you want to have it? Bend, Oregon. It happens to be where he lives. So Andy was generous enough to host this in his backyard where he didn't have to travel. But that said, it's a beautiful place, and I think you'll hear from this story. It was great. So we just put it out there. Again, a bunch of people that don't really know how to do an event said, hey, we're going to have this thing, and we're going to call it a summit. It's a 2.0 summit. That was our name. And we're going to have it in Bend, Oregon, and we're going to have these speakers. I think we had 6 or 7 really, really good speakers. I want to say it was 2 or 3 days. I'm sorry if I don't remember. Um, it was quickly. We really spread it out through the group and even outside the group, and got some momentum and put a price on it. Nobody was getting paid to speak. Everybody paid their own way. This whole thing, there was no money involved with the Rebels, really, really ever, except for when we had an event. We charged usually too little, but we charged enough to pay for costs of food if we were feeding people, and then any activities, and then the place to host it, and then things like that. Um, so we said, let's have it in Bend, Oregon in October of 2017. Boom. We're getting towards it. There's some buzz. I think around 70 people bought tickets. 65, 63, 65 showed up. And we did. We all converged on Bend, Oregon. And there we go. That was the first summit for the Rebels, 2.0 at that point. Just a couple people that were there. I mean, I'm going to name drop like a motherfucker. Danny and Diane Burnett, the first time I got to meet these incredible people. Chris Laney, Chris and Angie Laney. Sean Michael Lewis, Kevin Dooley, I've already mentioned. R. David Sweet, Ben Justinson, Parker Olson, Stuart Babicki, obviously Blaine Perry was there. Bob Timmel. Bob Timmel showed up. Bob and Christine. Sean Ivory was there from New Jersey. Several people. Really, really good group of people. I'm not mentioning everyone. Dave Meyer and Jennifer Dosher were there. Funny enough about them, they split up. So I don't know. If you ask Whitney Wiseman who was first, I think maybe Norp was a little before the Rebels. I'm not real sure, but let's just say it was. But Norp had, and this was a running joke through the years after. It seemed like we always had simultaneous events running. Coincidence? I don't know. But Norp had their national event in Whitney's backyard, Fort Lauderdale or Deerfield or somewhere like that. And there were, obviously, we were friendly. I mean, these were two groups that were kind of talking about some of the same things. I think the Rebels, the 2.0, was a little heavier. And Dave Meyer came to Bend, Oregon with one of his staff. I'm sorry if I don't remember. And Dave Meyer is from Madison, Wisconsin, with Serta Dry. And his fiance at the time, who's now his wife, and their office manager went the other way to Florida. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, Dave was promoting how much the first day, how great it was. And Jennifer and their office manager flew on the red eye overnight out to Oregon, which, by the way, is no direct flights from anywhere to Bend, but flew out, hopped a couple of planes, flew up to Redmond, and came in. And I'm talking in the red eye. So that was pretty substantial to know that happened. But we had this event in Bend, had a good couple of days of plans, kind of. Poor R. David Sweet, was putting together his presentation about structural drying and the standards, and just setting it up. And he had some wood studs for the sub materials. Just, it really wasn't all working out real well. There were some things that were supposed to ship that didn't. Right, just regular stuff. We had some T-shirts made that went out. Doug Distel was there with United from the very beginning. Jake with DBS. We had some sponsors. Jarrett Steer, the first time we met Jarrett already knew Chris Laney from Indiana, but he just came out and said, "Hey, I've got these great things called the G Unit." Came out and sold them all. Sold every one of them that he could fit into his truck. I think he drove out. So we had poker night. We lots of stuff. We had great dinners, gatherings around a big fire for dinners. A bunch of guys had their drones that they had brought out, and they were flying the drones together. Me and Laney had too much whiskey and played pool one night till way in the early mornings. But Bend was great. John Grubb showed up. I didn't know John. I really don't know how. I don't think any of us really knew John. John just had heard about this thing, and John was running his former Restore. If you don't know John, just a credible man. Former Restore and current was in digital marketing at that time, helping restorers with pay-per-click. But he just was intrigued by some of these conversations, and he's kind of a rebel himself. And he drove out from Idaho, not as far as some people, and was wowed like the rest of us. Like, we didn't know at the time what we were doing. We just knew immediately that this felt right. John even said, "I've never been to something like this. I despise." He's like me in that way. He goes, "I despise these events, but this was great." And someone, and I don't remember who it was, but they said that first Rebel Summit was a mixture between a Tony Robbins event and a tent revival. People were standing up, bearing their soul, becoming vulnerable, talking about their pains, what they've tried, what this means to them. You don't get that anywhere else. This was very exclusive. One small room. It was really, really. I spoke on the front of the room. I forgot what I even spoke about. Like, I had a subject, but I was just trying to keep up with all of this stuff. So Bend was really great, and I think we laughed about it and said, "Bend it until it breaks," right? So Bend was really great. Went to Crater Lake, spent the day there when I was finished, and it was really, really great. But I just met a lot of great people that weekend. And I did not know I was going to. And most all of those are still very close people today that all of us could text each other at midnight and would be there for the other. So really good start.